USDA. And so I took on 2 studies back to back and did research in beekeeping and apiculture and finding out why the bees are dying. And I've been looking at it personally and trying to find out, what can we do to help bees. And so my whole life's been devoted to that. I go back, way back in beekeeping. Go ahead with the first slide. I'll show you how far back I go. Here I am at the parting of the seas with Moses. And you can see the veil, my bee veil down at the base of my feet. After that event was over, I headed down to the Nile to work with my beehives along the Nile River. Down the Nile to pollinate the crops. So go ahead. But there I am, 5 years old. My first beehive, I was so excited. My dad got me. I have to tell you this quick story, and then we'll move on through the slides quicker. But my dad, I was outside, I'd watch him. He'd go, no veil, t-shirt. He'd go inspect his beehives, go through his beehives. I'd watch him from the distance. I was 3.5 foot. Dad, when am I going to get my first beehive? When you get 5 years old, you'll get your first beehive. 5 years old for my birthday, I got a beehive, a package of bees that he gave me, and started off as a beekeeper with my first hive here. Come on in. Okay. Right there, my hive. And my dad said we're going to have a contest. Whoever gets more honey, the winner is going to get free restaurant meal down at the bungalow, which was at the base of the hill where I live. And some of you might remember the bungalow restaurant down at the bottom near the Blackstone River. So at the end of the season, it was August 30th, he always took his honey off for the season. He said to me, I know I won. He said, did you save up enough money to take me out? And back then, with 4 kids in the family, we went out to eat once a year, maybe twice a year, if you were lucky, So anyway, he weighed his up, 76 pounds, sorry, so I should remember that, 76 pounds. I had 89 pounds, I won. He says, I can't believe it, baby, what's your secret? You're a great beekeeper. He wanted a 6th generation beekeeper, I think, and he knew what he had to do. He built up my ego. He says, you beat me, there's a secret, you did something that, I said, Dad, I just did what you told me. And he says, wow, he said, you won, we're going to be going down to the bungalow to have a free meal. And so what happened is my dad, all of a sudden, says, you ready to go? We went down, the other 3 kids said, why does he get to go out to eat? Beat Dad in the contest. And so what happened, we went down there, Mr. Ordette, if you remember Mr. Ordette back in those 50s, he was the water washer, he was the chef, and he was the waiter all in one. Only 8 tables in the whole place. And so I looked at the menu, whatever you want. And of course I saw steak, mashed potatoes, vegetable, and dessert, $2.95. That's the thing on the meal, $2.95. And I chose that. We had a nice meal, we talked beekeeping. He says, you think you're gonna like it? I said, Dad, I like beekeeping. And that was the end. It was, for the rest of my life. I've had bees in the military. Even I was stationed down in Tennessee there. I'd go down, one of the companies needed somebody to shake bees into packages. I did that because I missed my bees. So I'd go down there on the weekends and work down there with honeybees. So it's in my blood. I call myself half Polish, half bee. But anyway, go ahead, Debbie. If you look at a beehive, that's what it looks like. It's 50 to 80,000 bees at the full strength. And these little eyes are looking up at you and saying, who are you? And probably seen the bee whisperer, they call me. That was the Boston Globe, did a big feature on me because, like my dad, I'd go in out without a veil, t-shirt, and most people have seen me work the bees. Wonder, there's a secret you have. I said, yeah, but I can't give that away, otherwise everybody's going to be successful. And we'll go to what I do. So anyway, that's what you look like. And what happens is, how in nature, the bees to 80,000 all summer, in the fall. By winter time, when they're gonna go into a tight cluster, they go down to about 30,000 bees. And they get smaller because many are dying over the winter. And by spring, January, February, they go down to number 8,000, 9,000 bees, maybe 10,000 bees, and they start over building up again. And by May, you can see there, end of May, early June, they reach their peak. And guess what else is the end of May, early June is all the flowers are blooming, and all the plants, the raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, everything's blooming, and the bees have the flowers, and the flowers have the bees to pollinate and create the fruits and vegetables. 40% of our fruits and of our food is pollinated by the honeybees. And so you can see they reached the peak together, and it was a love affair between bees and flowers for millions of years. But now, the sad part is, bees are dying at alarming rates. Anybody that knows or reads about bees, number of things that have happened. We've had a mite come in. I found the first one as a bee inspector in 1989 here in Shrewsbury, and ever since, there's been kind of a downward slide with bees. They're dying. We're trying to find ways to keep them alive with the mite. Not only that, but we have now, instead of 3 different viruses, we have like 15 viruses that the bees, over the years. We have also pesticides that are heavy-duty pesticides, which are affecting the honeybees. And we're working to harvest and USDA studies showed a lot of this. And here's what we have to do to help the honeybees. And I've been fighting that ever since. Matter of fact, tree cutters, even the tree cutters, 3 sons up in Westboro. I'm going tomorrow. A tree this huge, it had been over 200 years, they said, was cut. Inside was a bee's nest. So rather than spraying it like most do now, even the tree cutters, they're calling beekeepers to save the bees. And so I'm going up tomorrow to save bees at a huge tree that is for the good of honeybees, and hope to give it to one of the beekeepers that needs bees, and so that they can have bees, and maybe we have some resistance in those bees, and hopefully larger numbers. So anyway, the bees are in trouble. One of the things is I speak to groups, what can you do at the end? I'll give you a few ideas what you can do as a person that's a citizen to help the honeybees. And here, bees need a whole lot of land, open land, with flowers to get the nectar, the sweet nectar out of the flower, and the pollen, which they pollinate the plant with. Because it's not like they say, hey, man needs food, let's go, we need to be pollinated. They need the pollen and nectar to survive. Pollen for protein, honey for carbohydrates. And they're like anybody. They need that, and if they don't have it, and so what's happening with all the developments we have, you know, we go like Westboro, you should see the development I went into. It's a closed gated community, Powder Hill, $2.5 million homes. Every lawn is like a carpet. It's like a carpet, not a weed, not an insect. And it's okay, but it hurts the bees because they're using pesticides and no flowers. But this is what they need, all kind of flowers to pollinate, and that's what we get is pollination. They go from flower to flower, pollinate on a cranberry bars. They have to bring in bees from flowering all over and different places because they have a hard time getting enough bees. There's not many bees out there now. The big commercial people lost over 1 million hives this past winter. And so we are in trouble, and hopefully we get over this and save the bees. And here you can see the 3 types of bees in a hive. From the far right there, those are the worker bees. They're the smallest of the 3 bees in a hive. There's 95% of the population is worker bees. They're all females. They do all the work in the hive. The bees work all, do everything. They clean the hive, they feed the nurse bees, they bring the water in, they go out and pollinate. The worker bees, valuable, all females. In the middle is the drone, the male bees, it's only about 5%. Drones in a hive. Only thing they do, males, is fertilize the queen, new queens that hatch. And then the queen bee. The queen bee is the key. Without her, the hive fails. She lays 1,500 to 1,800 eggs a day, starting in January and all the way through November. 1,500. Imagine if you were an egg farmer and got that many eggs out of a chicken. Everybody want to be chicken farmers. But anyway, the queen is the valuable. With a bear attacks the hive, they circle around and protect it to the best of the ability because they know that she's going to be the key. If they lose her, they're in trouble. And so those are three. And here you can see the workmanship, the teamwork. On the left side is a field bee. First 2 weeks of a bee's life is in the hive, cleaning the hive, feeding the young, and everything within the hive. After 2 weeks, because they only live 6 weeks from March through November, because they work themselves to death, they wear their wings out, and the poor things sacrifice their life. In the wintertime, they live 4 months because they're not flying, going out, getting honey, nectar. They've got it all stored, and they just have it right there. So they live 4 months. But in the spring through the fall, 6 weeks. So here's a field bee. After 2 weeks, they go out and get the nectar, pollen, and on the right side is a house bee. And the field bee gets the nectar, sucks up the nectar into its honey stomach, and brings it back. The house bee is ready there. They connect proboscis, that's like a tube, and they suck the honey. The house bee sucks the honey out of the honey stomach, and that's only a droplet. One drop, like a drop of water. That's all they can bring back at a time. And the house bee then goes and deposits it, so the field bee can get out and get more nectar. What teamwork between the younger bees and the older bees. And they work so well together as a team to make things successful. We could only be like that.
Yeah.
And here's
who makes the comb?
Huh?
Who makes the comb?
The house bees make the comb. A few bees can as well, but the house bees generate the what they call it. It creates a pheromone, and there's wax glands they have at the back in their abdomen, and it oozes out these wax little flakes, and they take and shape it into a six-sided. I'll show you here after what the demonstration. Here, six-sided, everyone the same size. They're geometric experts, and they make the wax. But here's a house bee, a guard bee at the entrance. As they get to the older end of those 2 weeks, they become guard bees. And you can see, this is a gland. They open up at the entrance and they stay there. So the bees that go out collect nectar, as they come in, especially if you got 5 or 6 hives, their pheromone from that hive is the same. So you can see the pheromone in the fan, and the bees coming in, they can tell 15 feet away that this is my hive, and that's another hive. And the other hive won't let another bee in that smells different. They'll battle. If bumblebee tries getting in robbing, they won't let it in. We work hard for this. They're not going to steal it from us. Go ahead. And this is a house cleaning bee, taking out a little dead larva and cleaning out anything that shouldn't be there, polishing the cells, making sure the queen will lay in the cells because they want it nice, and the queen don't. You can see all these, sometimes she skips over. The worker bees have to go right there, polish it up better before she lays that egg. What teamwork and what they know, it's go ahead. And here's the water gathering bee. Nobody knew we had a set of water gathering until Tom Seeley came out a number of years ago, just 3 or 4 years ago. And it made sense. Nobody ever thought about it. Wait a minute. Bees don't go out the first 2 weeks. How do they get their water? How do they get the water? Every creature needs water. And so what? Tom Seeley found out that there's a group of bees called water gatherers. They go out on the stream, they go into a mud puddle, they go, and they collect the water, bring it back so the nurse bees have water to feed the little baby bees, so that the house bees can all take a drink, get water. That's their source. So we have water. There's a whole group called water gatherers. before they become nectar, they go out and get water. And according to Tom Seeley, that's what their first job is, water gatherers. And we never knew that till 2 years ago. Now, here's the nurseries, all of those the best. They go around, all the little egg is laid, 3 days it hatches into a larva, and then the bees chew honey and pollen, nectar, add enzymes from the hypopharyngeal glands here, and water substance. It's magical. It's got all kind of powerful stuff that the bees need to grow strong, and the nurse bees chew all that up, and then they have to feed the baby bees in there, the little larva. They can put it all in, it's like a white juice or syrup, and so the larva have it, and they can grow big and strong. And so what happens is these nurse bees, they constantly, every 4 hours, a larva will eat, fill up, and then after 4 hours needs food, they all release this pheromone, saying, feed me, you know, our babies say, you know, with bees, they're releasing this chemical, pheromone, and feed me. I can't imagine all these nurse bees going nuts. They're trying to feed all these baby bees in there, and then having to, you know, go chew up more pollen, more honey, and add enzymes to it. And honey is magical, as you know. There's a lot. They found out, you know, a bee, I just saw a study. It's pretty, 2 studies now come out for breast cancer, bee stings. I don't know if anybody saw that published. You can look it up. It kills the cancer cells. And so this is going to open up a whole new era. You know, so the magical, what bees have in the honey, like I say, and you know, pharmaceuticals tried to kill that concept, but up into the 40s and 50s, colonial days up, everybody used honey for medical purposes as well, for health. You know, go ahead, next one. Now, there's a drone, but like I said, only about 5% of the colony, but they need it because if you lose your queen, they can produce another queen, but she has to get mated to lay fertilized eggs and make worker bees. So the males are necessary, but in the fall, they kick them all out of the hive because they don't work. They just hang around, all wait for the mate. When the new queen is hatched, they mate her, but then they die. But all those drones in the winter months come about end of November, early December. You see them in the grass out there, they've been kicked out, it's cold at that time, and the grass all wet. I'd see them, I say to my wife, I said, look at the poor guys, kicked out. She said, that's the way it should be in the human race. They do all the work, kick them out, get them out, don't need them. And here's the queen, the egg laying machine, 1,500 eggs a day. We had to monitor during the USDA study. Jeff Curtis wanted us to get a count, so Dr. Callahan and I had to monitor on 2 of the hives to look approximately how big of an area, we know how many cells in that area, and how many eggs. It was we found about 1,500 eggs mid-season. So that's a lot of eggs. Can you imagine 1,500 times she puts her abdomen? You'll see this here in the next. Here's the queen. It's like she's royal. All the court around her, they groom her, they feed her, they take care of every need, they guard her, and everything that she needs, all she has to do is lay eggs. And we thought, in a new study there that's come out recently, the queen goes, but she goes into a trance for 10 to 15 minutes every so often. It's like they call it was referred to as a trance, where she don't, just rest. That's another thing we didn't know about her. But other than that, she just keeps going too. And she's good for 2 years. Once she gets fertilized, she's approximately good for laying eggs for 2 years, then runs out of sperm the new queen has to take over because she can't get remated. Okay. And here she puts her head in, checking the cell, make sure it's clean. Go ahead. And here's the egg. This was on the Bee Culture magazine years ago. A student of mine, not a student, a teacher of mine, co-worker, took the picture for me. I took this queen out of the cell. He got the picture, the egg coming out of the ovipositor. That's magnified. It's the size of a rice grain. You know, that's thinner than a rice grain, but the size of rice grain, and it goes to the bottom of the cell, and 3 days later it hatches out into a larva. Go ahead. And here you can see, there's the larva, it's all magnified. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. And as it eats, it gets big, fills up the whole cell. After 7 days it hatches. See the eggs? You can hardly see them. New beekeepers have a hard time seeing them. I said, you see this? You see the egg? No. Try it this angle. Can you see it? Oh, put it out to the sun. Can you see it? No. I said, you need glasses. and so go ahead. See the larva hatches out there, a small little baby larva at first, and it grows each day. And for 7 days it grows before they cap it over, and it turns into a pupa, and 21 days later, go ahead. So Dave, we're going to go back one day. Yeah, see the larva, how they grow? And they fill up the whole cell. They're in there real tight. And go ahead. And there's the pupa. And for 14 days, it turns into a pupa into an adult. And in one of the most magical things I like to see, I love to go in and watch the baby bee hatching out. It takes them 35 minutes. It takes Jeff Pettis, again with the university study, we monitored, we sat there 35 minutes. It took one with the first hole to get out. It struggles, like they're in there tight. They struggle, and when I was an inspector, I used to take tweezers and I'd say to the new beekeeper, uh-oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? I said, shh, I don't want to do brain damage. What's wrong? You know, new beekeepers are all worried about everything. So I take the tweezers and I take the little high tool and slowly pull the hoopy. And I said, it's a girl. That relieved them. Well, how do you know that? I said, oh, it's a worker bee. Oh, that's right. You know, but anyway, look at the cute little thing hatched out. Look at, isn't it cute? The two little brown eyes looking up at the world, not knowing, you know, who are you? And looking up all the hair wet from struggling so hard to get out of the cell. This poor little thing's going to go to work in 2 hours, dry off and go to work in 2 hours. And for the next 6 weeks, she's got a life of work and more work. And then dies, sacrificing for the hive, so that the rest of the hive can survive. So the things are such hard workers. You know, the bee has been voted by a national committee the most valuable insect to man. Go ahead. Just recently, that's the cycle they go through. They take on the coloration on the 18th day, and then 21 days after the egg was laid, they hatch out. And what do? They go from flower after the first 2 weeks in the hive, all the jobs, they go out to the flowers, get the nectar and the pollen, bring it back to the hive, store it for a winter. They need 80 pounds of honey and about 10 pounds of pollen, roughly, to make it through the winter months, raising young baby bees. So by May, there's a huge colony. And as that colony gets stronger through March, April, May, guess what? You're getting stronger, they need more pollen and would need more honey, and the bees can't get out yet. So as a result, we have to leave them plenty as beekeepers. We can't be greedy. Otherwise, if beekeeper's greed takes all their honey, they're not going to make it over winter. So the beekeeper has to be somebody that realizes this is their hard work. I can't take everything, but we still see some that do. But there's the pollen coming in on their pollen sacs. It's neat how they do that. See, as they go from flower to flower, those hairs spread the pollen and cross-pollinate to give us the fruits and vegetables. But the bees take this with their legs and put it right into their pollen sacs. And some of those pollen sacs, go ahead. Jeff Pettis and I on this one here, with the USD study, we took all the pollen off of that bee. We weighed, and he had this little micro scale. The pollen was almost as much as the bee. So that bee flew 2 miles with its own weight. We can't even pick a person our own weight up and jump off the ground. So aerodynamics of these insects is amazing. And they stack it in the pollen for the winter months, so they have pollen, because in the winter up here, November, December, January, February, and March, most of March, they can't get it. So they have to store that pollen, 10 pounds, in nectar 80 to 100 pounds. And then we have to supplement sometimes as well. And that's where they get it from, those big fields, this pollinating, here crop, the cranberries, they come down and there's, I think, 7,500 beehives that come down into the cranberry bogs pollinate, because each cranberry plant has like 8 flowers. And there's acres, hundreds of it, thousands of acres down on the bogs. I've been down there harvesting, it's amazing. When I go inspect, you see all those bees all over. 60,000 bees in a beehive, you can imagine. They need that to get all those flowers pollinated. And here's the bees bringing the nectar back. Putting it in, and what is honey? It's the nectar and all the nutrients that the plants put into it. And then the bees fan the excess moisture, and they add from the hypopharyngeal glands enzymes in there and different things that give us that combination of flowers and bees, and what's added, that's what honey is. And they bring down the moisture to under 18%, and that's honey. I brought even actually some 12 jars if anybody's interested. We just finished extracting honey. That's job in itself. But anyway, there's they cap it over after less than 18% moisture. Capped over honey means it's ripe, and they store it for the winter. As through the winter they have to stop feeding the babies, they chew the wax off, and the nurse bees can now go to work. So the queen can start laying. I found about the second week of January, third week of January, if they have access to pollen and nectar, they start their babies. And guess what? By May, June, bees are a dynamic boom. Go ahead. And that's the wax. This is an amazing. They build this wax. The wax glands, they ooze out the wax glands, and bees, the builders, take this, chew, and construct 6-sided cell, nice and strong, and this. Every one the same size, geometrically, how they do that. And you know, you can have to let you come up and I've got some honey for tasting, and that's what it's like. So the wax building, and this is Sarah. She's not a happy girl. She's had to go collect resins and saps from the pine trees, resins from different plants sticky, and they glue everything up. They coat it. It's called propolis they make from the resins, and we never knew. We thought it was just glue. For the winter ones, they glue everything up. They do that because Marla Spivak in her study just a year or two ago found out that that is antibacterial. It doesn't allow bacteria to grow in it. Just like with honey, it's antibacterial. During civil water coat the wound so you wouldn't get infection, they used honey. It won't allow, King Tut's honey is still good. A few years back they had a raffle, 3,000-year-old honey in an urn for the Egyptian Science Museum. I bought 2 tickets in that raffle, $100 each. It was for the Egyptian Museum. And guess what? 2 ounce shy, you got a few, one of the 10 winners of honey from King Tut's stone. Still good. 3,000 years old. There's questions of does some of the nutrients break down or whatever that, they still haven't, they're doing some work, I understand now, but the question is, that old, does it break down the nutrients in honey? But the honey is still good, still sweet, and they think it's from along the Nile River, what's that big plant that goes along the Nile? No, lotus. And here's, she's bringing in all that resin and from saps from pine trees and different plants that's sticky, and they coat everything. And that's why we now know why they use that. Most of the beekeepers now aren't scraping that off thinking it's just glue. It's so valuable. And my dad used to use propolis, and how many remember Dr. O'Connor in Northbridge? Dr. O'Connor, he was the kind of a big doctor. My sisters used to have bat poison ivy all leaky and whatever, go calamine lotion. And it never worked, right? Anybody that used to have these jobs, and that didn't work. My dad made a tincture out of propolis. Used to, on my sister's 2 days later, it's all dried up and gone. Dr. O'Connor saw that on my sister's. Well, how'd you do? He used to send all that had that bad poison ivy with leakiness to my dad to get the propolis tincture until finally the medical association told him to cease and desist. Yeah, it was 13 years. He said people would go to get the tincture, and then finally, you know, it's big pharma, the pressure, big pharma, and things. So anyway, that's the way to set things up. The worker brood, the pollen, and the honey up above where they hatch all the bees. How constructive. So the nurse bees have to, on the same frame, they go up, get the honey, get the pollen, chew it up, add enzymes, and feed the baby bees. They have such organization, planning, little insects. And that's what a beehive looks like at the end of the season. It's got all these extra boxes of honey on top. And they make extra than what they need. And obviously, guess what? The beekeeper makes out, if they take care of the bees, they get honey. It's a nice reward. As long as you don't take too much, you can't be greedy, because the bees won't make it. But that's what a hive looks like. Go ahead. And inside the hive, once a year, bees swarm. That's the big challenge for beekeepers. Their bees swarm, they lose half their bees, but that's the way bees multiply. And when they swarm, they start a new nest, and they multiply. And so, they produce a new queen, and before she hatches, the old queen leaves, and go ahead, Doug, and goes in. How many have seen a swarm before? Swarm bees? Everybody's, many seen? Yeah.